mining, and logging. Local environmentalists and indigenous peoples are resisting President Bolsonaro's plans. We are here to show solidarity.
If the Amazon dies,
we will die.
We die.
We die.
Deforestation. Now.
We die.
Lots of times these animals don't even make it to the slaughterhouse. They get into these type of accidents, and so they've already been through hell. And these cows, instead of going to a sanctuary, even though they were asked to go to a sanctuary, instead they got ushered to a slaughterhouse and killed anyways. They're no different than dogs, basically scared big dogs on the highway. And nobody cared because they weren't dogs, they were cows. And that's why we're here, to raise awareness that cows have feelings just like any other animal, including dogs, including humans, and their lives meant something.
We're in London, we're outside the courthouse. I was facing criminal charges. I could potentially have ended up in jail for 10 years for entering a pig breeding facility and rescuing a small piglet. And what I found inside there was horrendous. So I filmed mother pigs with huge prolapses. I filmed electrical violations.
The Crown Attorney announced in court today that they were withdrawing all the charges against Jenny on the basis that there was no reasonable prospect of conviction. So Jenny McQueen no longer faces any criminal charges in relation to her animal rights activism.
For animal rights activists, it's a good thing. We know that we will continue. I told the judge I asked to speak, and I said we will continue to raise awareness because animal agriculture is basically lying to the Canadian public. The police are powerless to end animal agriculture's abuse of animals. The legal system is powerless to end it. So it seems to be down to grassroots activism, organizations like the SAFE movement, organizations like Direct Action Everywhere that I'm with, to actually go inside, you know, potentially be in jail, but at the same time it's a social justice movement. We are prepared to take the consequences. We are prepared to have acts of civil disobedience for animals which are living in misery.
We're here today to protest against Maple Leaf Foods. They're building a new $600 million slaughterhouse right here in London, Ontario, and that slaughterhouse is going to be killing 500,000 innocent birds per day. That is absolutely unacceptable, and on top of all that violence against animals, they are going to be polluting the water of this city, and they're going to be ruining the environment for everyone, including the wild animals. And that is why we're here today. We have picked out all the products, all the victims of Maple Leaf Foods. We're doing a little ceremony for them and also a political statement. This is a political statement about us rejecting them building this place of violence. It's time for us to move on. It's 2019. We do not have to be killing animals anymore. Maple Leaf Foods is investing a $300 million plant-based protein facility in Indiana. They could easily be doing the exact same thing right here, moving us towards a greener, more compassionate, more humane, more sustainable future. And in fact, the CEO of Maple Leaf Foods, Michael McCain, said to his own shareholders that is exactly what they want to do. They care about food insecurity, they care about climate change, but this slaughterhouse they're building is contradicting their own morals and their own values. So please, support our campaign. Look up Stop Maple Leaf Violence. You can find the page on Facebook and join us in this fight against a corporation that is bringing violence and environmental destruction to this city.
Canada Goose, go animal free.
Canada Goose, let the animals live.
Canada Goose, set the trend.
Animal use has to end.
What do we do when animals are under attack?
Unite, fight back.
Torture, death, and exploitation.
Profits for a corporation.
As an established fashion retailer, Uncle Otis has the power to influence other companies in the fashion industry to end this cycle of violence against animals. So you guys could be a compassionate leader. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to deliver that message. Appreciate it. Take care, guys.
We're outside the CEO of Maple Leaf Foods. He wants to build a massive slaughterhouse to kill millions of chickens. He wants to gas them to death instead of slicing their throats and stunning them in an electric bath. No chicken wants to die. There is no humane way to kill chickens.
We're here because we know Michael McCain runs a major company that's going in the right direction. They're a leading plant protein producer in North America, but they still insist on building this mega slaughterhouse in London, Ontario. We know it's bad for them, it's bad for the chickens, 1,000,000%, and it's bad for the shareholders.
Canadian Tire!
Stop gluing mice to death!
Home Depot!
Stop gluing mice to death!
Walmart!
Stop gluing mice to death!
Home Depot!
Stop gluing mice to death!
Lowe's!
Stop gluing mice to death!
Home Hardware!
Stop gluing mice to death!
We're at Cumbres, which is behind us there. They call themselves an ethical butcher, and we're here to raise awareness about both the humane meat myth as well as speciesism. In addition to doing outreach with the public, after a certain number of protests, we contact the restaurant, in this case the butcher. We sit down and meet with the owner, and we request that they add vegan dishes and remove some of the animal dishes that they have. And so far we've been really successful bringing veganism more into the mainstream. We had a sign, which we have today as well, saying dog meat for sale. So BlogTO picked up on it, saying that's a really good point that the protesters have. Why are we okay with one but not the other, which of course is speciesism. So thanks to BlogTO, we were able to bring it further into the mainstream so that people can question who they're eating.
Subsidizing!
Join the revolution! Nation rising!
Animals are dying! Stop the subsidizing!
Join the revolution! Nation rising!
We are converging, all Canadians, individuals, experts, organizations across Canada to ask the government to shift subsidies away from animal agriculture and towards plant-based farming for the good of the people, the planet, and the animals. We all recognize the devastating impact animal agriculture has on our planet, on our health, and we've all seen the horrors of what it does to animals, and it needs to stop.
The truth is unstoppable, another world is possible. Truth is unstoppable, another world is possible. Truth is unstoppable, another world is possible. Truth is unstoppable, another world is possible.
We've brought about 50 activists out to visit a dairy farm in Ontario after a debate with Camille Labchuk and one of the dairy farmers of Ontario.
So we're out here to document the reality of the dairy industry because so often, people consume dairy products, milk, cheese, ice cream, but they don't understand what the animals have to go through, how they're exploited for those products to end up in the supermarkets. Right behind us, we see these baby calves who are separated from their mothers when they're so young, and all they want is love and care and attention, but instead they're individually separated in these little crates. And it's so cold out. It's so cold. I can't imagine what it must be like for them to endure this kind of weather.
support the archaic animal agriculture industry, which is wreaking havoc on the planet, as world-renowned scientists are demanding humans to shift away from using non-humans as food. As they pride themselves off of celebrating a history of firsts, they lag behind when it comes to the shift in consciousness regarding non-humans as individuals, whose value is not a commodity, but as an individual worthy of life and respect. Fish has a story, and you'll know when you're here, and you'll know when you're near, that each one deserves freedom, that each one deserves freedom. That's the reason we're here, that's the reason we're here.
We all know the transport laws in Canada are horrible. These animals go through extreme heat and extreme cold. No food, no water for 24 hours in some cases. And then they come to a facility like this, where they're held for who knows how long. These pigs are inside there screaming for. No workers present, nobody making sure they're okay. And also just feeding them so they get a little bit bigger. And they'll be killed on this floor, and there's no compassion in the slaughterhouse. There's no humane way to kill an animal.
We are on a planet that is dying, and we are all implicit through supporting a system that is killing it. When it comes to climate change, those imaginary borders we have created to separate us don't apply. We are all intimately affected by the climate crisis. There are no borders. It is one planet.
We had a meeting on Monday morning with the Maple Leaf executive. They reached out to us because apparently Michael McCain wasn't too happy about the home demonstrations, even though they were love-based at his place. They talked a lot about the sustainable initiatives that they did, and we listened. We had an academic doctor there to talk about plant protein. They talked, and then we countered with, you can't fight speciesism. There's no reason to take an animal's life that doesn't want to die. And you know, the climate and everything is intimately tied to animal agriculture.
Here to help the activists when they break their fast with some fresh fruit and water.
I think that campaign is super important because we need to get the animal's perspective out there. We talk a lot about veganism, and sometimes it's thought as a diet instead of being an animal liberation movement. And this campaign is really wonderful because it shows the faces of the victims and it gives a different perspective.
Thank you all for being here.
And thank you. So Joaquin is not only a vegan, he's also an activist. And he's a, top star in the world. And
That's
it's
questionable.
well, he's going to change the world for us, and we're so happy to have him here. Thank you. Thank you for making Toronto a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks for being vegan.
Thank you.
We have not come here to beg politicians for change. We have come here to show them that change is coming.
Animals are living too! Animals are living too! Animals are living too!
I try not to eat a lot of meat. I definitely try to avoid palm oil.
In our school, we already have a group that's working on making the school more eco, and I am the representative for my class.
I'm just doing like the best I can at home. Like I've cut meat from my diet when I was 10 years old.
Well, we could start using solar panels. We could start using like energy cars, like cars that rely on energy, not gas. We could go vegan. It's sad what those animals have to go through.
We are in a way protesting, but also raising awareness about fossil fuels and everything destructive to the planet.
I want the government to take notice. I want the mainstream media to take notice. And I want action on this climate disaster that we're facing.
Living in this unjust and rotten system creates a moral imperative for us to step out of our comfort zone and stand up for our lives, our children's lives, and justice. Extinction Rebellion has 3 demands. That the government and the media tell the truth about the crisis. That the government develops a plan to reach net zero by 2025. And that the government accepts oversight from a People's Assembly to guide the transition to a low-emissions world. Extinction Rebellion uses non-violent disruption to demand system change. We actively mitigate for power to break down the toxic hierarchies that we live in that systematically oppress Indigenous people and people of color.
If you don't like what you got, why don't you change it? If the world is all screwed up, rearrange it. Raise a little hell, raise a little hell, raise a little hell. Now let me hear it. Raise a little hell.
I'm here to remind people that all of our traditions, in fact, and I would say probably all traditions in this world, if I may be so bold, believe that we do not have dominion over this earth, but rather we are caretakers, we are stewards of this earth. I call on everyone from all our traditions to move forward, to call for action for all of us. Thank you. What do we want?
Climate action!
When do we want it?
Now!
They can arrest us, but we will still speak out for the climate, for the animals. You don't have to do this extreme activism. This is a way of making a statement and getting through to the general public that we have a crisis on our hands. Animal rebellion. I'm with Direct Action Everywhere too. We believe in direct action. We believe that everyone can make a difference. 3 times a day you have the power of your core to make a difference in the food that you eat. I'm asking people, take a challenge, challenge22.com.
People united will never be defeated. The 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 people united will never be defeated. We love you. 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 We love you.
Thank you.